What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 91 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres, trad or indie published. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, sometimes it's someone new. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you could catch a previous interview about a book you finished. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I'm encouraging the badass FMC to fuck it all and burn the world down. Just please be mindful around listening ears. And also, it's June, happy Pride Month to all who celebrate. Cantina Book Club is an LGBTQ plus friendly space. Keep an eye out on my social media for book suggestions if you want to support authors in the LGBTQ plus community. Check out previous interviews and keep an eye out just to see the next guest could be your favorite author or someone from that community. So happy Pride. For all of you Chicagoland and Midwest readers, I'm going to be a panelist at Books in Bloom, taking place July 11th and 12th at the Sonesta Chicago O'Hare in Rosemont, Illinois. The event is hosted by Chicago North romance writers. For details and tickets, visit chicagobookinbloom.com. I really hope to see you guys there. And as for new releases and recent releases, last week on June 10th, Catherine Ray released her latest book, The English Masterpiece. And if you want to listen to the interview that I did with Catherine or check out the book review, you could do so by visiting cantinabookclub.com or checking out the episode lists on your favorite podcast player, or even on YouTube. Coming out on June 17th today is Mob Queen by Erin. I haven't had a chance to pick that up yet, but the cover looks really cool and the overall sentiment is pretty positive so far, so I'm excited to get into that. Today's episode features a chat with Kait Ballenger. We're talking about her book, Original Sinner. That book is available now. Such a fun conversation with Kait. We rambled on forever. I think I talked too much, to be honest, but she was such a good sport. It was so fun to talk to her about all the important themes that she shares and writes about in her book. Original Sinner, I really did enjoy this book. For the dark romance girlies, you're gonna love it. For the romance girlies who aren't sure about dark romance, I would say that there may be some points. It depends. It depends on your triggers. It depends on the tropes that you want to stay away from. But that's why the content warnings are there in the first place. But it was just a quintessential example of, don't judge a book by its cover when it comes to the authors, because while authors might write some disturbing shit, Kait was such a gem, not intimidating, not disturbing to talk to at all. And I'm so excited. I've already set an interview to talk with her again when she's got the sequel coming out. But without further ado, here is Kait. So today we've got Kait Ballenger. We're talking about Original Sinner. That book is available now. Kait, thanks so much for joining me today. This book was so fun and sexy and controversial at times, but I don't know. I see that as the juicy part of it and just the fun of it all, the character depth and everything you went with and how you developed the story and the characters and how all the levels of it. So I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper today.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and thank you for all the kind words. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. It's like your baby and I know you put a lot of work into it, and I could tell you had fun with it too. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this was very much Original Sinner was definitely like a passion project. It was it came at a time in my writing career when I was really just needing to do something for my own joy. And so that book was it. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna write something that is just purely fun for me. And if people read it, great. If they don't, I had a fun time writing it. But then it ended up getting a really great response. So that's been amazing to see. And yeah, I've just had a blast with this book, and now I'm working on book 3 in the series currently, so I'm we're in the thick of the moment.
Yeah, you're in it. You're all about that universe right now. You're kind
Yes.
of
Yeah.
you're just I love it. I love it. Can you give a quick summary of the book? We'll try to be spoiler free, even though it's been out for a little while, just so listeners can follow along with the conversation.
Yeah, so Original Sinner is a dark, very very spicy, romanticy, and it follows Lucifer and the other seven deadly sins who are now billionaire celebrities in this god abandoned New York City. And the heroine, Charlotte, is running away from her ultra religious family and upbringing. And she ends up in New York City thinking that if she works for Lucifer's company, that family's never going to come after her. She's going to be safe working for the devil. But then she ends up getting caught up with Lucifer, right? Like, this is all on the back cover, so I don't feel like it's too spoilery that she ends up writing this really scathing press release about Lucifer because of course he is a lovable asshole of a boss. And then it gets leaked to the press, so she ends up having to fake date Lucifer, and so she's fake dating the devil, and further conflict ensues from there.
Yeah, it's like I don't envy her, but at the same time, I'm like, "No, that would be cool." There's some allure there to, like, fake dating.
Yeah,
"Oh, you're stuck with me now. It's part of to help your image," and but
yeah,
she's ugh, like, at
yeah.
least at first, she's
Yeah,
like
she's annoyed first, right? Like, she wouldn't have written such a horrible, scathing, like, press release about him if she didn't think that he was, like, a grade A jerk. But then ultimately, in true enemies to lovers fashion, they don't end up continuing to hate one another. But yeah, she's definitely upset about the fact that she suddenly has to fake date Lucifer at first, but there's some perks to dating a billionaire
yeah.
celebrity.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it. I just loved their little it's 'cause there is like a happily ever after love journey there, but it's the twist on the big picture of it. It's yeah, like if the whole story of Adam and Eve, if and the fallen angel in the Bible, all those stories, if like they existed in present day, absolutely, they would be, like, true to form and a billionaire celebrities, and it totally makes sense that Lucifer would be like, "No, I don't have time for this shit. I don't
Yes.
like this doesn't." Yeah, and it totally makes sense where he's complicated and he's mysterious and he's just it's almost like, there's very few things that might be able to pull him out of that, and Charlotte herself and we'll get into it, but it's like the levels of it, like the layers of these characters where because she's like running away from something and she was raised to be like this good girl and then she's learning a lot. Oh, she's putting herself out there and she's not shying away from situations from putting herself out there and she's being exposed to things that she's never had to worry about or thought about before. And so it was cool to see her take to that where she's like why am I not bothered by this? Why do I like this? Like, why does this intrigue me? And I was like writing notes as I was like progressing through the story and they become like a little more like unhinged. It was just like, it's like a bitch because you're better than that because you want to live your life. That's why he intrigues you. And he's like sexy and good looking and he's like rich and he's you're like she's trying to go off on her own and start a new life, but then it just doesn't end up as she would have ever expected. But she's not yeah, you said, like, she's annoyed at first, but then she's actually, "This isn't so bad." Like, she's
Yeah, yeah. Charlotte is definitely like on a major growth journey, both in this book and throughout the series, right? Like she's been sheltered in a very ultra Christian community all her life. So suddenly she's on her own. She's in New York City. She's working for Lucifer. Now she's fake dating the devil, right? She's having all kinds of experiences that she never would have had previously and like trying to make heads and tails of all that. So one of the things I think I love most about her character is that like she's starting out the story like a little meek, a little mild, but like she's coming into herself, like she's working hard to step into her power and break out of the things that she's been taught her whole life. And I think it's fun to see a female main character, right, presenting themselves in a I'm trying to be better and heal myself and know my own worth sort of way.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll get into that later because 'cause they're, like, just adding to the layers of it. It's just, like, navigating that growth and time just like the juxtaposition of she's going a total 180. Like, she's
Yeah.
literally went from growing up in strict I think it's arguably I think one of the trigger warnings you use is, like, religious abuse,
Yeah.
and it's just yeah, and that could be she's totally got PTSD from for reasons,
Yes.
and we won't, like, spoil all of it now, but she's totally got PTSD, and then she's just, "Oh, okay, so I'm going from very devout, strict religious upbringing, family, father, and then, oh, my first step into the real world, I'm gonna be working for the devil. It's like
Yes, yeah. Like, she definitely takes her, like, rebellion from, like, against what like, the way she was raised to the next level. It's, "Okay, get it, girl." Like
and she's just, "You know what? I'm just gonna you're pushing me into the exact opposite of what you wanted me to be, and this is
Yes.
I don't hate it." I don't
Yeah.
I'm not she it's and it could be arguably, like, maybe a little healing for her because she's, like, taking charge of herself, and she's not beholden to, like, these expectations. She's, like, exploring what she wants and being independent and exploring the type of what she enjoys, what she likes, not just inside of the bedroom, but outside of the bedroom too, where she's just, like, exploring herself, and it's almost of age and just discovering herself again, who she is outside of what she's been, like, forced to be.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you use the term like coming of age, right? Because like it's true. I think that when like in real life as well, when you're somebody who's come from a very strict background or you've experienced a lot of trauma in your life, right? You have to rebuild once you're capable of getting away from that. And it does feel like a coming of age process. And I like that you also mentioned right about her like it almost being healing for her, and because that was very much like intentional. I was really trying to make it clear that Lucifer, as much as this is a dark romance, right, and he does dark romance hero things and there's plenty of trigger warnings, right, at the same time I think the overall arc of their relationship is one that kind of moves toward both of them healing in different ways from their backgrounds. Because I always think it's fun that people are like, oh my gosh, you're putting this like girl who has this hyper religious background with the devil, right? And I'm like, but he also comes from a hyper religious background that he has rebelled against, right? Like, I'm like, so they have a
People
lot in
forget that.
common,
Yeah,
right? Like, if people
yeah.
forget that, like,
'Cause he is that's kind of where it's teetering where Lucifer is concerned, it's teetering on that, "Oh, okay, like, oh, little baby boy, like, what?" Like, he's vulnerable, but he doesn't, like there's vulnerable sides to him because he's, like, misunderstood, and he's had a shit hand kinda dealt to him too, and there's these preconceived like, people have passed judgment on him just because he's the devil. He's the one who fell from grace, and he was the one who tempted Eve and whatever, and so, there's people have preconceived notions about him, but then it's once you get down, like, beneath that, you have the capacity to be kind, and for some reason, he's avoiding that whole he's avoiding people figuring him out one way or the other, and
yes, yeah, yeah.
I love that side of him,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do think he's definitely avoiding the bigger feelings there. And that definitely I feel like changes over the arc of the series. We keep the dark side of Lucifer, but we get some vulnerability from him in book 1 and increasingly in later books and stuff as well. To just this book this series like definitely a romance in the fact that like they're happily ever after, but it does follow them for more than one book. I'm working on book 3, so it's been really fun to see both their characters' growth arc as I've been working throughout the series. Because, like, I'm more of a discovery writer, so I don't necessarily plot in advance. So I get just as surprised as the readers do by, like, the things they're doing, and which is a fun way to work. And it's been, especially now that I'm working on book 3, I'm like, it's really cool to look back and see the arc of them, like, over the course of the series and, like, where things have really gone.
So, how many books are you planning for in this series?
So I about Charlotte and Lucifer, I have just plans for these initial 3. Book 2 in the series, Wicked Believer, is coming out on September 9th. So that's later this year. And then I'm currently writing book 3, and that is tentatively going to be out in spring of 2026. I would love to write about the other sinners after that. We haven't talked much about them, and I love them as secondary characters. And so I have tentative plans that I might write about them, but it's still like in the works behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely, lots of potential there where you could just go and play around with kind of the same things of their it's the kind of like the outline is there just from their general the characters and who they are. And so you're building the world and you're focusing on one couple's arc, but then there's so much potential to follow up and build upon everything that you're working on. I love that idea because it can be tricky to build a love story or a relationship over multiple because like I was just interviewing another author, Anna Darcy, where she's an indie author and where her romance, it's not just one book, it's three books.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how like standalones, like interconnected standalones are just so huge, and especially like hockey romance or like sports romance and stuff like that. But like for her, it was just that's what reminded me of just stretching their whole relationship and love story over the span of three books. And so I imagine maybe that was like also a little tricky for you because I think with your background, you have a few other like published works, correct?
Yeah. So this is not my first
Yeah.
series. I started out many years ago writing for Harlequin, a series that at that time was called The Execution Underground. I've gotten the rights back on that and republished it as
Oh, good.
Brotherhood. And then I'm probably until now the Original Sinner is gaining so much momentum. Before this, I was probably best known for my Seven Rain Shifter series, which is paranormal romances where they're cowboy wolf shifters. So people knew me as that cowboy wolf shifter author for a while. And those were interconnected standalones, right? There
Yeah.
was a arc to the fantasy elements of the series, but there was a different couple. In my career, I had been doing a different couple for every book, but I'd been wanting for quite some time to write a couple that they're a multi-book series, and Charlotte and Lucifer were just the ones who ended up being the perfect fit for that, because I think that there's so much for both of them to unpack and also grow throughout the series that when I got done with book one, like I was convinced that I was going to go into book two and write about another set of characters. But then ultimately, like this idea for more about Charlotte and Lucifer just kept tugging at the back of my head, and I was like, okay, I have to like pursue this. And as soon as I did, I was like, no, this is the right choice. They needed more story, and there was more going on here than I realized initially. But it is a challenge, I think, to sustain a romantic arc over the course of multiple books, especially like when you end book one with them already together, as I did, without being spoilery. So it's been interesting. I will say, like, I set the challenge for myself when I was working on book two, Wicked Believer, that I really wanted to be able to maintain the same sort of level of romantic tension in the book, but also show their relationship growth in like an authentic way. Because they're not going to ride off into the sunset and everything's going to be like rainbows and roses, right?
Yeah, they still got to deal with some shit.
Yeah, there's still some things they need to work out. And so figuring out what that was for each of their characters and how that greater like world building of what's going on with the fantasy elements of the series was really like a very difficult but also very fun challenge. As a writer, like I've been in this long enough that I like setting challenges for myself because that's how I keep this like fun and interesting. So it's been really cool to be able to do that, and I'm hoping that readers are really gonna love what I do with book two. I can't, without giving any spoilers, I'm like, y'all are gonna be happy with me, I think.
I mean, you set the tone, you set the bar, and it's kind of I understand the pressure of it. I appreciate the struggle and like kind of the nervousness around it. But then you just take that anxiety, you take that and you apply it to your work because then you're like, oh, people have expectations, and how do you get that momentum, but also break a little bit.
Exactly, right? Like I feel like I always have to keep upping my game, and like characterization, I feel I've always been able to articulate as a writer, and taking that characterization to the next level by extending their romance and following them for more than one book was really exciting to me. But like you said about that anxiety, I had to just put it to the side about worrying what readers would think of the sequel, because so much of how it has been received, I think, is that I did have so much fun writing it. So I was like, I just have to repeat the process for book two. This has just got to be super fun to me. And so I did have a lot of fun writing book two. And I remember getting to the end of it. And then only once I had finished did the panic about, oh, this has got to be good for readers set in. But I'm glad it happened that way because I've been feeling that for a couple months now because it's been done for a while. But I just had to actually do a read through of it as they were formatting and stuff for arcs. And it's past the developmental edit process, everything's gone through. And when I went back and read through, I was like, nope, I'm happy with how this turned out.
Well, that's
Are gonna like
good.
this.
Yeah.
And it eased my anxiety. I very much had that are readers gonna love the sequel feeling, but reading through it again, I was like, no, I think they're gonna like this.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. It's peace of mind for you, and then you can speak to it with confidence. Like you can,
Yeah,
like when you're promoting and talking about it, and you could remember instead of like, I don't know, I hope.
definitely able to walk away from it feeling like I gave book two everything I had and I'm happy with how it turned out, so I'm hoping that readers will feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. And that September will come up like before you know it.
Oh my
Like
gosh,
it's
yeah. I like the fact that arcs are gonna be here, like the physical arcs are gonna be arriving to my house any day now, and I'm just like, what? I can't
yeah.
wait.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. So, piggybacking off of, I think, some of the points that you made, I always like to ask about the research because this is it twists on very well known story, very well known lore. And because, like, people, it's a fine line you have to tread whenever you drag a biblical history and stories and into whatever. And the fact that to it and you're like, no, our heroine is just gonna like ditch religion, ditch the patriarchy, ditch like all of that and go off on her own and explore herself and become reacquainted with herself in a new light. And then just in general, it's stepping on toes of has established already in their brains, whether whatever level of belief they have. And so I want to go into like your how you approach the research if you had to do any research, maybe you needed clarification or navigating dark themes or the settings that you put your characters into, stuff like anything fascinating that you learned, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, as far as the religious stuff for the books, I had to do a whole ton of research. No one will be surprised to know that, like, I grew up involved in the Christian church if there's a book. So I feel like those elements I already had pretty well in hand because they've been forced onto me.
You kind of know it way too well, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, and I also have a background like in English literature, right? So I'm familiar with Lost, right, which is the true mythology of Lucifer as the fallen angel really comes from, right? People are always shocked when you point out that like none of that is actually in Christian Bible. Like none of that background and story that we have about Lucifer being like God's favorite angel and then falling, that literally just comes from Paradise Lost, and it's become part of the like cultural canon. And so yeah,
Yeah.
it become part of the canon for Lucifer as like a mythical character. I will say there was like minor like research into angel like classifications and demonology stuff of what I was going to name different demon characters or things like that throughout the series, but actually the bulk of the research was really around New York City and the settings, right? Because I've been to the city many times and I love visiting there, but I do not live in New York City. And I wanted to make sure that it was believable to readers who do live there. And also, my editor has lived there previously.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I was
Yep.
like, I have to make sure that I'm doing this true to form. So I actually had a friend who was shocked to realize just recently that Lucifer's penthouse is a real place, right? So 172 Madison Avenue down south in New York City is in fact house a penthouse that is colloquially known as Lake House, and it is 5 floors. Some description that you get from Lucifer's penthouse, like when Charlotte arrives, is basically like stuff that I've gathered through Zillow and like
That's
looking
so
at that
funny.
specific penthouse. And there's several other like locations in the book that people were surprised about too. I think that when they have when Lucifer and Charlotte first start their fake dating journey, they have to debut to the press, and so they throw this big, hey, look, this is my new fiance, and like I'm debuting for the first time party. And they throw it at a place that's 52 Park Avenue, and that is an actual event venue that is a old church that has been made into an event space. So there's lots of small like details in the setting specifically that I had to really look into and make sure I was getting authentic and felt like New York. Need away from it, which is going to be different things for every reader, I think. But I will say that if you read Original Sinner and you miss the very heavily feminist, very anti-capitalist, very politically charged themes in it, you're probably reading it wrong.
If you're just, like, clutching your pearls, "Oh my god, what is this?"
Yeah.
No, there's messages in there, there's undertones
Yes,
there, there's
there is
yeah.
definitely messages and undertones that are meant to be taken away, and ones that a lot of people will find very controversial. But I will say that probably the people who would find controversial are probably not reading this series.
Maybe they just aren't your audience, maybe they just aren't your audience, and I assume you've already accepted that.
Yes, yes.
Already, like
I have very much accepted that, and I will say this is just an offhanded thing. When the book first came out, started like running ads. A couple people comment on some of the ads they were like, this book is of the devil, and I was like, I think you missed the point.
Yeah, it is.
Like I was like, yeah, okay. And so it was just I had a moment when I told my writer friends who like as I was looking at this because like I was traveling for the book signing this I was like, I've made it because I've pissed off the Jesus people.
That's how you know.
Yes.
That's how you know. That's so funny, you're like, "I've made it. I made it to the Jesus people. I've made it."
Yes. Right. Yeah.
That's so funny. I love that. That's like That's a bar, that milestone that you didn't know that
Yeah.
was gonna be it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well,
Yeah,
especially
you know, when you pissed off certain people, you know that you've gotten your reach out there.
yes, yeah, and especially in the culture of kind of book banning that like the book community in general is dealing with right now. I'm like, if somebody's like saying that they don't like my book because of the very controversial or explicit content, I'm like, okay, you're not my audience. Keep going.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay, and that's okay. This
Yes.
book is not for you, and that's okay,
Yep.
right? Like, it's just
Exactly.
being real, but then that's what I love about the book community, because it's I feel like so many of us, even authors and readers, who are like, "That's okay," but then those readers are having a problem with it. They're like, "No, it's not okay. Like, you can't have this book out there because of this, that, and the other." And it's so much of the book community is we're like, I need it's just whose voices are louder. Because I'm always like I said before, it's like I'm not into dark romance, but I was so appreciative of the opportunity to read your book because I'm like, no, this was fun. This was sexy and cool and funny and
Oh, thank
and
you.
fun to read. And it's entertaining, and it's also, yeah, those undertones that we talked about. Yeah, there's you have to make a point, and because it comes from like your own personal experiences to an extent, it's like you're feeding yourself, and it's no, you come from a place of authenticity, and you look past the smut, look past the dark. Oh my god, we're supposed to sympathize with the seven deadly sins. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why not? Aren't we all multidimensional, right? What That's what it's like. And I don't know if it's rose-colored glasses for me, but I just have a tendency to like just be open-minded. But I'm just like, no, if that's your thing and if that gets your socks off, like I'm not gonna yuck your yum.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna kink shame you. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? It's not my thing, but that's okay. That's okay that it's your thing. It's like it's that's really all like at the end of the day, that's like the basic of it. It's like the basic of it.
Exactly, right? Like this book is definitely for like open-minded readers who are like, I don't judge. And that's how I am as a reader and in my own life, right? Is that I'm not going to judge you as long as you're not like hurting anybody who has not agreed to be hurt, right? Like it doesn't bother me, right? And so it may not be my thing, but I will just move on with my life, right? Like
Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything to just okay, read the synopsis or read the commentary, have your opinion and decide that's not for me and move on. Like it
yes.
takes nothing to do that. It takes almost nothing to do that. And that's why I noticed that book readers, bookstagrammers do like straight up have opinions and are loud about their opinions, and it's just that's coming back to my opinion earlier about no, I love that people are push back on that because that's not what we're here for. We're not here to shame, we're not here to yuck on your yuck. We already have people coming at us for enjoying intense scenes where women are having consent and they're exploring their sexuality in a safe space. We're already having people coming at us for that. We don't need people in our own community coming at us for that. It's not,
Yes, exactly.
and it just reminds me of, again, not being too political, but it's just like women who's not a girl's girl. You know,
Yeah.
who's like women, you're fighting our own battles. You're fighting their battles for them.
Mhm.
When it's just like they don't consider you part of them. It's just wake up. It's like just it doesn't take again, it just like you feel strongly about something, your opinion is not gonna change. You being as loud about nobody should read this book. It's gonna have that effect because then people are gonna be like, "Oh, why shouldn't I read this book?"
Yes. There is a popular presenter in the book community named Becca Syme, and she's one of her clients 2 times. And so I'm echoing this back. And she said this client said to her, if I had known the number of 1-star reviews it was going to take to get me to number 1 on Amazon, right? I would have welcomed them a lot more frequently, right? Because to figure out who your audience is, you have to know who they are not. Right? So if you are somebody who is very like not open-minded, you don't love on-page sex scenes, you don't like the idea of a morally gray hero or characters, and you don't want to read about spicy BDSM, this is not the series for you, right?
And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like, you don't need to go hating on or shaming people for if that's what they enjoy,
Yes.
and that's what keeps them going. And I got into a conversation about another author, a romance author, about this where it's, "Oh, people are saying, 'Oh, smut is porn.'" And I'm like, I don't for me personally, I don't think it's shameful for men to go to porn for whatever they need. It's just it becomes problematic when it's don't use that as a guideline for
Yeah. For how
and again,
women
like, yeah,
are,
okay,
yeah.
there's an argument to be made where, okay, if women, wives, partners, whatever,
Mhm.
they wanna say, "Hey, what do you watch? What are you into? Maybe we can try that."
Yeah.
Again, it could be an romance and smut could be an instructional manual for men, for the partners, but it's I think I was joking around where it's not just the sex scenes, but, like, everything leading up to that. You gotta read the whole thing. Like, you gotta see the swoon-worthy moments, and you gotta see the build-up and the tension and the pining to see why, like, why women are, like, just so feral for some of these men, these fictional men. It's just there's you gotta instead of shaming them, like, if you're really mad about it, just educate yourself. I don't know, like there's an opportunity for discussion that doesn't have to include, "Oh my god, you're just reading porn." And it's, "Yeah, why do you think I'm reading this intimate scene?
Yeah.
Because I'm not getting it somewhere else." It's I'm not okay, if you're being shamed for watching porn, can you think of like the specific reasons? It's like these women are being paid to be choked. It's be realistic here. It's like you're videotaping partners and people in certain situations. Whereas fictional, it's like there's dude, come on. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Where if we take Charlotte, for example, she has agency.
Mhm.
She has agency and she's making these choices. And even though it's like she finds in herself a situation that she didn't anticipate, she's still kind of owning it. She's still going about herself. Whereas if you're looking at the visual of it, I understand men are visual creatures and they like what they like, but it's also but there's just a difference. There's a difference, and as long as you can identify it and recognize it, and if you feel like talking about it, like there's a discussion, there's a conversation, there's an opportunity for conversation. It doesn't need to be like shameful unless you're like just salty that women are swooning over fictional men, they're not swooning over you. It's
Yeah.
like, what it's just dude, like, you're like, again, you're telling on yourselves if you're getting so upset about smut.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
honestly, I think the people who do get so upset and love to call romance novels porn, for one, have probably never actually read a romance novel. And for two, these are the kinds of people who are going to take the attitude where they say anything that is loved by a large group of women is like problematic or
Yeah.
not
Oh my god,
right. And
yes.
like,
If men loved reading smut, it would even
yeah,
it would be so much more forgiven. Like, it would
exactly. Yeah, romance is as maligned as it is a space for like women and other marginalized identities where they can just be and find joy and stories about their joy in a way that like we don't always get in the real world, and so people feel the
seriously.
need to attack that because it's very dangerous to like people of a different mindset. And I'll share, I made a thread on Threads the other day that said this, and I still stand by this, is that if you are a reader and you think the romance genre is not really feminist, you're reading it wrong.
Are you kidding me? Like 80% of publishing in like, publishing industry is from women.
Yeah,
Women readers, like, there's the like, women, the publishing dollars,
yeah,
it's because of women who are reading. Men who read, they're not it's so funny because, again, going back to recommending books by to my male so my husband, it's so funny when I recommended he loves dragons, and so I knew it was like, "You gotta read Fourth Wing."
yeah,
And, he introduced me to the Aragon series years ago, and I love of course, that's a good series, Aragon.
yes.
And so when I said, "I know you love dragons,"
You have
and I
to read
told him, like, "You
this.
gotta read this," and it took him a while to get on it, but he did, and I was like, "Just so you know," I told him, I was like, "There's some spice in there, there's some open door scenes in there." And so when he finally opened it, "You said there's some spiciness in here?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's alright." He was just prepared himself for it.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's just yeah, I don't know if he's just what do they call, like, a unicorn, but he just got over it. He was, like, expecting it, and then he got over it. And it was funny because 'cause I'm like, there are certain scenes where I'm like, "Did you get to this yet? Did you get to this yet?" And he's just yeah, like, they went to Pound Town, whatever. Like,
yeah.
he doesn't like, he accepts it that he goes on. But then my cousin who he was reading he's into the Brandon Sanderson, his Cosmere,
Mhm.
all of that. And it was funny because I was, like, drunk texting him, and he was like, "Conversation, you need to start Stormlight." And so I did. I downloaded the audiobook, and I was like, "Steven, 45 hours audiobook." And I was like, "If you're demanding 45 hours of my time, I'm gonna demand 20 hours of your time.
Yeah.
Choose between Throne of Glass or Fourth Wing."
Yeah.
And he chose Fourth Wing because of the hype around it, and also because it's gonna become like a television show and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Alright, Fourth Wing." And so he did, and he's legitimately, I don't know, it's just every time they're near each other, they're just like they just wanna fuck each other. He's like, all I hear about is, "Okay, you know what, Imma fuck you. I wanna fuck you." Like, it just sucks all the air out of the room, and I'm like, "But there's so much more
That
to
you're
that series
missing,
than
yeah.
that. There's so much more."
Honest
And so he's, "I don't need 4 pages about how they're yearning for each other," and then his wife is, "I want you to tell me how you're yearning for me." And I'm like, "That's right." I'm like, so it just started that conversation, but it's so funny to see that differentiation of, no, I don't need that, but it's totally different between male and female readers. And
well,
it's so funny to see that. It's so funny.
and it's so crazy to me when like people say that like there's like we see these articles circulating in like major publications that are calling poor Rebecca Yarros like the queen of dragons or
Dragon smut.
whatever. And I'm like,
It's like there's 5 pages, there's 5% in each book.
yes, yeah, I saw a breakdown
It
where
like
it was like
to put so
5%
much
this.
work into this and just be, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a breakdown where it was like, if this is 5% of the book. I'm like, 5%. This poor woman has written this really amazingly built world in this fantasy series, and all you can focus on is the
Seriously.
5% where they have sex, which is just so ridiculous to me. Like the way that women are held to a
It
very different
seriously
standard
is.
than male writers. Game of Thrones can put all
Oh
the
my
like
god.
rape scenes at once, but like we can't have our consensual sex scenes. So, yeah.
It really, seriously, it is. It's just, "Oh, dragon smut." You don't call George R. R. Martin dragon smut when it's literally the mother of dragons. Her first sexual experiences with her arranged marriage was non-consensual. And it's
Yeah.
really, yeah, no, I was one who, I'm one of those people who are waiting for Winds of Winter.
Yeah.
I am still like, I am a fan. I read the books, and I had people come into me after certain seasons ended. They're like, "What happens? Wait, I need clarification." And I'm like, this is where it ends for us too. It was just like when the season surpassed the books. And it's, no, it's so crazy how just black and white people tend to be. And it's just, you're focusing on this, but that just means that you aren't well read. It's just like you need to read more. And for me, it's just because I eat books like strawberries. So I'm like, I read so much where I'm like, I can I can gauge, and I'm like, "No, I've seen this done better, and I've seen this done more respectfully, or I've seen this done." And I get it, like George R. R. Martin, he's like from a different generation, he's from a different readership. He has his reasons, and it's just, yeah, in medieval times, yeah, it's the world, the purpose of the world. But that's like for Rebecca to be like releasing this shit in like the 2000s, the 2020s,
Yeah.
and she's up against these readers. But I feel like you can't have Harry Potter level fandom without getting some of this shit, you know, and
Yeah,
it's just,
for sure.
she really is. And I actually interviewed her a few years ago for Fourth Wing before it came out, and it was like, it was fun and funny to see her blow up, like,
Yeah.
because she was just like, it was just like a connection through Red Tower, because I that's like how I get a lot of these opportunities, is from like publishers or
Yeah.
from PR agencies that they're connecting with. And so I treated it as, and I just remember, yeah, this was like a fucking fantastic book.
Yeah.
And then that's when, even when I got an arc of it, I told my husband, like, no, you're gonna really dig this book.
That's
And
good.
because it is like, there's so much, like, exactly, you're exactly right, where she takes the time to build these connections and to tease the readers and to have this world figured out, and just try to find a way to tell the story so that it's engaging and mysterious and serious and sexy. And it's just like a, like it's, and I've never read any of her contemporary, because I know that at heart a contemporary writer.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed her, she was like, I was so scared of fantasy. She was like, I was so scared of fantasy because she was so used to contemporary. So it's exactly like, there's something to be said about like the comparison, and it's just so unfair.
Yeah.
And it's just, but you're absolutely right. It's like anything that women, even a vast majority of women, there's a reason book talk exists. That's a reason why smut has blown up. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And like, why are you guys shaming? Why don't you guys like try to figure it out? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, Why are women going feral for fictional men? Maybe because men ain't shit sometimes. Like,
Yes.
I love my husband. I love my husband, and I appreciate how open he is despite growing up in a very traditional household with the male, the father working parent. I totally agree how open-minded he is and how funny he could be, and I love messing with him sometimes. So I appreciate the men who can be open-minded, but it's just unfortunately they're not the ones.
Yeah.
You know, the loud ones are like, and unfortunately it's some women too. And it's just, I know we got off on a tangent, but I love it. Where it's just, yeah, exactly. You're right. That's okay if this is not for you. And
Yes.
that's why there's trigger warnings. And that's why I'm telling you now. So don't hate on me. It's just like you read at your own risk.
Yes,
It's
exactly. Yeah.
I love it. I know, like, we went off. I want to respect our time. I feel like we could talk
Oh,
forever.
yeah, yeah, we're having like, I love chatting with you, so it's been great.
Oh, me too. No, yeah, I love it when the conversation just takes off on whatever. Like we talked about so many issues, and then we talked about SJM, and I love it.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for Charlotte? What advice do you have for Lucifer? And keep in mind, first book,
Oh
not
gosh.
not how you already plan their story.
First book. Oh, so my advice to Lucifer would be to not be so scared of the vulnerable parts of yourself. He would roll his eyes, like totally not give a shit about anything I said to him. But that would be my advice to him, is not to be so scared of the vulnerable parts of himself. And then for Charlotte, I would say I want her to recognize that she has more power than she thinks she has.
That is solid advice because that's so fitting for both of them. But it's fitting for Charlotte because she's also it speaks to her like her journey and
Yeah,
she's still discovering it.
exactly.
It's girl, you got if you want, you can have Lucifer on his knees.
Exactly.
Like
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. We would.
no one else would ever know about it, but you would know about it.
Yep.
It's
You
like
would know. Yep. There, without giving too much away, there is a line at the start of, I can't remember the chapter number, but at the start of a chapter in book 2 in Wicked Believer, and it's Charlotte's point of view, and it says, "I am the reason the devil is nervous today." And I'm like, yeah, girl, yes, you are.
yes. I love that. I would love to say that. That's just again back to SJM. That reminds me of Manon. Whatever doesn't kill me better start running. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. I was the reason why he was nervous today. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love it. I love it. So let's see. You've already played with this more officially. What can readers expect in the sequel?
Yeah, readers can expect all the sorts of things that made them fall in love with book 1. So there's plenty of fantasy, like magic elements going on. We've still got our billionaire Lucifer and the siblings causing all sorts of havoc and chaos. And all the spice and BDSM is still there. And we've amped it all up a notch and made the stakes higher, is what I would say.
Perfect. That's what we expect, right? It's okay. You guys have established that you're in it for each other. All right, time to get down to business. Like,
Exactly. And book 1 very much eases you into the world, right? Because even though we start out knowing that this is a world where Lucifer and the other 7 deadly sins exist, and there are these celebrities and they potentially have these powers, right? We're eased into it. Like, it feels very contemporary until we get into the second half of a, and but in Wicked Believer, all bets are off, right? Because the doors have been thrown open. We've seen some of Lucifer's power. We've seen what he and some of the siblings can do, and now it's like chaos is gonna ensue.
you managed to make a character where he's supposed to be feared, but I would still like I don't know. I would still check him out in a suit, you
Yeah.
know.
He has a few,
It's like there's I'm still a woman.
right?
Like
Yeah. He has a few moments where it's a little bit scarier in book 2, but we'd still admire the look of him for sure.
it's kind of a big bulldog or a big pit bull dog like he's soft for his owner, his
Yes,
person.
yeah.
Like, I love it. I love it. I love it. We all love it as we eat that shit up. Kait Ballenger, where can we find you online and on social media?
Yeah, so readers can find me at www.kateballenger.com. That's my website, and you can sign up for my newsletter there. And I do have Original Sinner bonus content with deleted scenes for anybody who signs up. So you can find me there. And
Yeah, we'll find you, we'll creep on you, all that good stuff. Perfect. Kate Ballinger, Original Sinner. That book is available now. So thank you so much for all your answers and for humoring me and my tangents and all that stuff. And if and when you're ready, either maybe it's not book two, maybe it could be book three, take your time. If you ever want to come back and talk about your work again, feel free. I'd love to chat again. Was talking about her book Original Sinner. That book is available now. Check out the show notes where you can find links to purchase the book and follow Kate online and on social media. While you're perusing social media, please find Cantina Book Club either on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Twitter/X, YouTube especially. I'm building up the YouTube channel, so I would be so excited for you guys to check out all the short interview clips and recipes, drink recipes that I do, and the book review videos, all that good stuff. And if you need book recommendations, check out cantinabookclub.com. I'm always sharing book reviews on all sorts of genres. If you find a book that you like and you want that author to succeed, as we all should, head on over to Goodreads and Amazon and drop them a rating and review. It really does help them out. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.